I'm Bruce Marshall. This is the Brampton Now update for the week ending the March 13th, 14th weekend, 2021. Coming up, COVID along Steeles brings transit to a halt. A West Steeles hotspot, the Amazon facility, is closed by the health department. And when will we see red zoning in our hood? Dr. Lowe talks about his hopes and the wolf at the door. Details on that and more coming up in this Brampton Now update. Here's what's happening in Brampton. Dr. Lawrence Lowe, Peel's chief medic, with the lay of the land as of midweek.
On Monday, we entered the provincial framework at the grey lockdown level as our vaccination rollout continues. And seniors born in 1941 or earlier are able to now book appointments through our Osler and Trillium sites, including the Trillium site at the University of Toronto, Mississauga. For more information on booking, you can visit peelregion.ca/COVID-19 vaccine. That's one word, COVID-19 vaccine. And I encourage everyone to reach out to 80-plus seniors that you may know in the community in case they need some help, a little assistance to book, or they can also call the Peel call center, as Mayor Brown mentioned as well, 905-791-5202.
Brampton transit along Steeles was halted for a time early this week after 3 transit operators tested positive for COVID. Mayor Brown declared at the weekly press conference that the route was shut temporarily to protect staff.
Transit operators, I just want to say without hesitation that we will always put the health and safety of our operators first, and if there's any risk, no matter how insignificant that risk is, we're going to look out for our transit operators. They've been unsung pandemic heroes. I just want to say thank you to ATU. I want to say thank you to our transit operators, and know we're always going to have their back without hesitation.
The question that occupied some minds with this route was the Amazon facility a factor in the Steeles bus route having to be closed down?
Well, like I said, we have high levels of community transmission. We have a number of outbreaks, and 511 Steeles, as I understand it from our hospital partner, from our transit partners rather, is one of the busiest routes in the city. And to the extent that the provenance and destination of passengers could be anywhere along that route, and it is one of the busiest routes in the city, we have not identified any specific link to any one specific outbreak at this time.
That was the doctor on the data on Wednesday. By Friday afternoon, Peel Public Health had closed the giant Amazon facility in West Brampton due to an out-of-control outbreak at the facility. All Amazon workers at the facility have been ordered to self-isolate for 14 days. Another question was about the red zone. Both mayors in Peel have had their opinions, but what does the chief medic have to say on the question of Brampton moving to red?
And I want to be very clear with everyone. I would like nothing better than to keep moving progressively down the color codes. I think our recent weekly numbers are starting to turn into a plateau. The question is, as you know, the piece around cases is that you need to have either stable or declining trends. So if things look stable, if things continue to remain favorable in our hospitals, etc., we may proceed. But again, it's really this tightrope between we're seeing more and more vaccine come available, which is really our way of getting out of this permanently, and we're really trying to just be careful and ginger on the measures so that we don't create a third wave, which would then essentially result in our vaccine capacity being diverted back to treatment and hospital capacity. So really precarious, walking a tightrope at this point in time, but hopeful and optimistic, as always.
In a moment, the mayor responds to violent protest in Brampton, and Brampton has a busload of nominees going to the Juno Awards. More on that coming up on the Brampton Now update.
Hey, Alan Doyle here. I'm stoked to be joining the gang at 𝗕𝗿𝗺cie 𝗡𝗨𝗽𝗁 on March 25th for their Muskoka Night virtual experience. Now, it's going to be a grand way to shake off the cobwebs from the winter and get ready for the summer cottage country season. Should be all right. Myself and a bunch of other awesome folks are going to be singing and reading stories and telling jokes and doing all the fun stuff. So get your tickets. It's all for a good cause. And I'll see you on March 25th. Cheers.
COVID-19 is a serious health threat. When you touch things like gas pumps, door handles, or someone else's cell phone, you can spread the virus, even if you don't have symptoms. Don't put lives at risk. Wash your hands. Stay 2 meters apart. That's a distance of 2 arms lengths. And if you're sick, stay home to save lives. A message from the Government of Canada.
This is the Brampton Now Update. I'm Bruce Marshall. Protest in support of Indian farmers has been a feature over the past few weeks. More recently, those in support of the Indian government have protested also. One incident in Brampton resulted in violence, and it looks like police have charged one person, with more charges coming up. Mayor Brown weighed in on the issue.
For any of the protests that are happening, let me just say I respect the fact there is a constitutional right, a charter right that gives people the right to peaceful assembly and the right to protest. But never in those instances should there be acts of violence. There is zero tolerance on violence, and I know hopefully that message has been heard loud and clear. And if there are future protests, let me be perfectly clear. I've heard this from Chief 𝗕𝗄𝗃. Violence will not be tolerated.
You've probably heard that 7-Eleven stores have been lobbying for a liquor license that may have included wining and dining Premier Ford. The issue has come up in an ugly way in downtown Brampton. The famous, or maybe infamous, 7-Eleven store on Main Street, just north of the rail tracks, is one location under consideration for a liquor license. It's right next door to Grace United Church, home of one of the busiest organizations that helps the vulnerable in Brampton. We already have some serious conflict going on between the homeless and desperate and downtown residents. So what a wonderful idea to plop an alcohol dispensary right next to the church, where they help lots of people dealing with addictions. Brampton's The Pointer has an excellent piece on this, including the words of one of Brampton's great heroes, Ted Brown, the executive director of Regeneration Outreach. It's a brilliant, in-depth piece by journalist Nita Safar. Go to thepointer.com. A couple of editorial comments out of that. We've got to wonder who hates Brampton more, Ontario Tories or 7-Eleven Corporation. And The Pointer is an online pay subscription model, but this story is available to all, and I suggest you read it. These are important discussions that will frame life in downtown Brampton. If this is the kind of thing The Pointer produces, the kind of question that they raise, this is worthy of investment. We should all consider making in The Pointer. In a moment, it would be so easy to let our guard down totally. Peel's Dr. Lowe says, please don't. More on that next on the Brampton Now Update.
We know confinement has been hard, locked in and isolated these past few months. As the country slowly reopens, the tourism industry needs your support more than ever. Whether you're looking for a staycation, a quick getaway, or a family vacation, consider an Indigenous tourism experience as your next destination. We have taken all of the safety measures to welcome you. And with over 400 Indigenous experiences open, we know that you'll find the right escape. Discover your authentic Indigenous experience at destinationindigenous.ca.
I'm Bruce Marshall. This is the Brampton Now Update. Dr. Lowe again at the City Press Conference this week with thanks to businesses who have borne the brunt of this.
So I want to be very clear that the measures that were taken here have saved so many. And because they have, we know that the voices of those that have borne the brunt grow increasingly, the voices of those that have borne the brunt of the disease grow increasingly faint as COVID fatigue starts to overwhelm us. And I want to be clear that I hear you. Yeah, I think all of our businesses, all of our residents deserve any and all support and relief to be provided for what has been sacrificed to keep our community and our province and country safe. But I want you to know that we have saved lives together, and without you, we would have lost so many more. And so right now, as we move into the hardest phase of the pandemic, I want to remind you, success is not reopening for the sake of reopening. Success is getting out of the pandemic for good, and I take that mandate seriously. So please know that better days are ahead. How soon they come will depend on how patient we can be. And no matter what, continue to limit contact, stay at home as much as you can, and get vaccinated when it's your turn.
And so the weather this weekend is going to be kind of nice. What should we do about that, Dr. Lowe?
Whatever you might be doing this weekend, really ensure that you're limiting your time outside, limiting your contacts, making sure you're sticking to the precautions, wearing a well-fitting mask, all those other pieces, keeping your distance. We only need to really do this for just a little while longer, because when the weather warms up and we spend more time outside, and when the vaccines start to really roll, hopefully in the next few weeks, I think this will change, hopefully sooner rather than later. But for the time being, there's still a novel virus out there for which many people are not immune, and we just need to make sure that we're following the precautions as much as we can.
And that's the Brampton Now Update for this week. Please subscribe to the Brampton Now Update channel on YouTube or follow #MarshallMinute on Facebook for lots of Brampton Need to Know that you won't find anywhere else. Your comments and suggestions are always welcome, and if you've got a Brampton story to tell, get in touch with me through the channel you're watching on right now. Stay strong, Brampton. Brampton strong. We're all in this together. I'm Bruce Marshall. Thanks for watching Brampton Now Update.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.